They will try to box you in. They'll measure you by their comfort zones, label you by your flaws, and tell you who you can or cannot be. And if you let them, if you stay silent, if you shrink yourself to fit their narratives, they will devalue you. Not because you're not worthy, but because it's easier for the world to digest you small. You cannot walk into a room expecting someone else to hand you your worth. That's not how power works. That's not how respect is earned. And it's definitely not how value is determined. If you don't know your worth before anyone else does, the world will assign it for you. And trust me, they'll always undersell you. You've got to walk in with your head held high, not waiting to be seen but already knowing that you belong. Too many people are walking around waiting to be picked. By a boss, by a lover, by society. Waiting to be noticed, waiting to be told they're enough. But the problem with waiting is that it keeps you in a posture of doubt. You become a version of yourself shaped by other people's opinions, and that is a dangerous place to live, because the minute their opinions shift, your whole world collapses. You start second, guessing your choices, questioning your value, doubting your dreams. That's not strength, that's surrender, and you're not here to surrender. Knowing your worth means you stop negotiating with your self-esteem. You stop trading your voice for validation. It means you understand at a soul level that your value was never up for debate in the first place. You are not a product that needs to be sold. You are a presence that needs to be felt, and it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what labels people gave you growing up. It doesn't matter if you were told you were too loud, too ambitious, too emotional, too complicated. You don't need to be less of anything to be worthy. You just need to be more of yourself. The authentic, raw, brilliant you that doesn't perform for approval but shows up for purpose. Knowing your worth means making decisions that align with your value, not your fears. You stop accepting roles, relationships, and routines that make you feel small. You begin to ask different questions, not will they like me, but is this good for me? And not am I enough, but does this serve who I'm becoming? And yes, that kind of mindset will intimidate people. It will make them uncomfortable because the world is used to women and men who doubt themselves. It is used to people who settle. But when you know your worth, you don't settle. You select. You choose with intention. You navigate with purpose. You stop chasing what doesn't reflect the value you know you bring to the table. Knowing your worth also means you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to win over the ones who don't respect your time, your boundaries, or your brilliance. Because when you truly value yourself, you understand that not everyone deserves access to you. Your time becomes sacred. Your energy becomes currency, and your peace becomes non-negotiable. This isn't about arrogance. It's not about walking through life with a chip on your shoulder. It's about grounding yourself in truth. And the truth is, you were not born to be average. You were not born to play small, dim your light, or water yourself down. You were born to stand tall, to take risks, to speak boldly, and to move through the world as though you know who you are, even if you're still becoming. Confidence doesn't just show up one day. It's built, layer by layer, choice by choice. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you build it. Every time you choose yourself over approval, you strengthen it. And every time you trust your instincts even when others don't, you anchor it deeper. The world might try to tell you you're too much or not enough, but when you know your worth, you stop listening to noise. You stop internalizing criticism. You understand that people project their limitations onto others, and just because they don't see your greatness doesn't mean it's not there. You stop shrinking to fit inside their vision. You expand, you rise. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to be flawless to be enough. What you need is clarity, a clear understanding of your value, your vision, and your voice. And you have to protect that clarity like it's gold, because in a world that profits from your self-doubt, Knowing your worth is a radical act, so show up, not to prove anything, but to express everything you already are. Walk in like you own the space, not because you're entitled, but because you know you've worked for it, bled for it, prepared for it. Let your presence speak before your words do. Let your confidence challenge every expectation. Let your value set the tone, and remember this: the people who are meant to be in your life will never ask you to devalue you yourself to keep them there. They'll recognize your worth without you having to scream it. But even if they don't, especially if they don't, you still walk with your head high because you already know who you are, you already know what you bring, and you already know that you are enough, always have been, always will be. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop making yourself smaller to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Stop twisting your truth to make other people feel better about their limitations. You were never meant to be silent, invisible, or easy to ignore. You were born to be seen, heard, and felt. There's this unspoken expectation, especially for women, to be agreeable, to be soft, to be quiet, to smile more, to take the back seat and clap for everyone else. But what if you weren't designed for the background? What if your purpose demands the spotlight, not out of ego, but because your presence shifts energy, inspires growth, and dares people to dream differently? Taking up space is not about arrogance. It's about authenticity. It's about walking into every room like you belong, because you do. It's not your job to make people comfortable with your ambition, your intelligence, your beauty, or your strength. That's their work, not yours. But we've been conditioned, haven't we? Conditioned to apologize before we speak, to say sorry when we take too long to explain, to shrink when we're praised, to downplay our talents so we don't come off as too much. As if owning your greatness is some kind of sin. As if confidence must always come with a side of humility so no one feels threatened. Let's be honest, that's not humility. That's fear dressed up as politeness. And you don't owe anyone your silence to keep the peace. You don't have to shrink so someone else can shine. Your light doesn't dim theirs. It only reminds them that they have one too. When you take up space, you disrupt systems. You challenge what's been accepted for too long. You make people reconsider what leadership looks like, what intelligence sounds like, what success feels like. You become a walking contradiction to stereotypes. And yes, people may try to put you back in a box, label you difficult, emotional, aggressive, intimidating. But those labels say more about their fears than your truth. So let them talk. While they're stuck in the old rules, you're out here rewriting them. Taking up space is also about honoring your voice. It means you don't wait to be asked for your opinion. You offer it loudly, clearly, unapologetically. You speak up in meetings. You challenge ideas when they don't align with your values. You correct people when they misrepresent you. You use your story not as a whisper, but as a thunderclap, echoing into places where others are still afraid to speak. It's also in the way you move. The way you walk into a room with your shoulders back, chin up, not asking for permission, but giving notice. It's in the way you sit at the table and make eye contact. The way you dress for yourself, not for validation. The way you exist fully, not cautiously. And yes, there will be resistance. You'll be told you're too bold, too loud, too confident. But let me tell you this, the moment you stop apologizing for being too much is the moment you realize you were never too much. You were just never meant for their small expectations. We spend so much time editing ourselves, trimming our dreams, softening our edges, rewriting our emotions. But for what? So someone else can feel more comfortable while we suffocate in silence. That's not empowerment. That's erasure. The world doesn't need more muted voices. It needs more people. especially women, who are brave enough to take up space in their full, wild, powerful form. People who aren't afraid to lead, to challenge, to question, to inspire, and that kind of presence. That kind of energy, it's contagious. It gives others permission to step into their power too. Your existence is not a disruption, it's a declaration. Every time you show up fully, you say, I'm here, and I'm not leaving to make you comfortable. That's powerful. That's transformative. That's revolutionary. There's beauty in being bold. There's freedom in being seen. And there's strength in refusing to apologize for either. You don't need to earn your space. You don't need to explain your presence. You are already worthy of both. You are not an afterthought, not a shadow, not a placeholder. You are the main event, the headline, the voice that makes people listen, and the energy that makes people rise. So take up space, not just physically, but emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. Let your presence be a full experience. Let your ideas shake the room. Let your laughter echo and your words carry weight. Let your truth live loudly. And the next time someone tries to make you feel guilty for being confident, for speaking up, for standing out, remember this. You were not born to apologize for your existence. You were born to live it fully, fiercely, and without fear. You are the one who sets the tone for how the world treats you, not your parents, not your friends, not your romantic partners. You. The way people speak to you, the way they respect your boundaries, or don't, the way they show up for you or leave you hanging, all of that is often a mirror of what you've taught them is acceptable. And the hard truth is, if you accept crumbs, people will stop offering you a seat at the table. They'll hand you leftovers and expect gratitude. But the moment you raise your standard, you raise the quality of every relationship in your life. It starts small. You excuse a comment that crosses a line. You smile through discomfort. You say yes when everything in you screams no, because you want to keep the peace, because you want to be liked, because it's easier in the moment to let it slide. But every time you do that, you're not just letting it slide. You're training people to believe that your boundaries are optional, that your needs are negotiable, that your value is up for debate, and it is not. Setting the standard is about being clear, clear about who you are, clear about what you will allow, clear about the kind of energy you're willing to tolerate in your space. It doesn't require being mean or cold. It requires being rooted, rooted in self, worth, rooted in clarity, rooted in an unshakable understanding that you deserve respect not because you demand it, but because you embody it, and people may test you. That's inevitable. The world will always test your boundaries to see if they're real or just suggestions. But every time you reinforce them, you reinforce your power. You show others that this is not a performance, it's a lifestyle. That you're not just talking about self-respect, you're living it. It shows up in how you let people speak to you. Do they talk down to you, cut you off, dismiss your ideas, or do they listen, engage, and value your words? Because if you laugh off being belittled or stay silent when disrespected, you teach them that your voice doesn't matter, and it does, it always has, but you've got to use it. It shows up in how you handle apologies. Do you accept apologies without changed behavior? Do you excuse people just because they say the right words, even if their actions stay the same? Because if you do, you're teaching them that remorse is enough, that accountability is optional. And that's not love. That's manipulation in a pretty package. You are allowed to require consistency. You are allowed to say, if you want to be in my life, I expect honesty. I expect kindness. I expect effort. That's not asking for too much. That's asking for basic human decency. And the ones who are meant for you won't flinch. They'll rise. The ones who aren't will leave. And that's a blessing. Setting the standard also means you hold yourself accountable. You don't just expect respect from others. You offer it to yourself first. That means walking away from places where you're not valued. It means not begging for love, attention, or time. It means choosing solitude over toxicity. And yes, that's hard, but it's also transformational. Because when you get serious about your standard, the energy around you changes. People feel it. They may not understand it, but they respect it. And if they don't, they disqualify themselves. That's how boundaries work. They protect your peace, filter your circle, and make room for the right people to enter. And don't confuse tolerance with strength. Tolerating disrespect doesn't make you mature, it makes you complicit. Strength is not in staying quiet, it's in knowing when to walk away. It's in saying, "This isn't what I deserve," and meaning it. It's in refusing to let loneliness convince you to settle. Setting the standard also means you're okay being misunderstood. Because let's be honest, some people will call you difficult the moment you stop being convenient. Some will say you've changed when you finally start loving yourself properly, and that's fine. Let them talk. Their discomfort is not your problem. Your alignment is. You don't have to explain your standards. You just have to live by them, and the right people, they'll respect them without being told. They'll see your worth and honor it because you've shown them how, not with demands, not with ultimatums, but with presence. With confidence, with consistency. You are not too much. You are not too picky. You are clear, and clarity scares people who benefit from your confusion. Stay clear anyway. This is how you teach the world how to treat you, not with words, but with action. With the way you protect your space, with the way you choose yourself, not occasionally, but daily, with the way you show up for your life like it matters, because it does. You're not just setting the standard for others. You're setting it for yourself. You're choosing to no longer abandon yourself to be accepted by others. You're saying, "I know who I am. I know what I deserve, and I refuse to settle for anything less." That's power. That's peace. That's self-respect in action. You were not put on this earth to convince anyone of your worth. Read that again. Your purpose is not to spend your days proving, performing, or pleading for someone else to finally recognize what you already know deep down, that you are valuable, worthy, and enough. The moment you decide to stop chasing approval is the moment you begin to truly live. So many people are stuck in this endless loop of seeking validation. They bend, twist, and shrink themselves into someone they think others will applaud. They live for likes, for nods, for claps from the cheap seats. And in doing so, they lose touch with their own voice. They forget what it feels like to be rooted in authenticity rather than reaction. When you constantly look outward for approval, you hand over the script of your life for someone else to write. You start measuring your success by someone else's comfort. That's not freedom, that's a trap. You can't live a powerful life and be addicted to approval at the same time. One will always cost you the other. And the truth is, not everyone is going to understand your path. Not everyone is going to clap for your choices. And some people, no matter what you do, will never give you the love or validation you seek. That's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. Choosing not to chase approval doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop abandoning yourself to be accepted. It means you let go of the need to be liked by everyone and start focusing on being respected by the right ones. Because approval is temporary, but self-respect is permanent, and no applause is worth sacrificing your peace or your purpose. There's a quiet confidence that comes from living in alignment with your truth. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it just is, and people can feel it. It's in your posture, in your eyes, in the way you speak without needing to dominate, and in the way you listen without losing yourself. When you no longer chase approval, you become magnetic, because there's nothing more attractive than someone who knows who they are and doesn't need external confirmation to feel secure. Let them think what they want. Let them talk. You were never meant to fit into a mold built by someone else's fears. You were meant to break the mold, to shatter the silence, to show others that it's possible to live fully without the need to be validated at every turn. Your power lies in your ability to choose yourself, even when others don't. The most liberating thing you'll ever do is stop apologizing for who you are, to stop editing your words so they sound more palatable, to stop performing for an audience that's never truly seen you. Approval is fleeting. The very people who cheer for you today might criticize you tomorrow. So why place your identity in something so unstable? You don't need permission to be powerful. You don't need consensus to be confident. And you definitely don't need a green light from the world to start owning your space, speaking your truth, and walking in your purpose. The validation you seek is already within you, waiting for you to believe that you don't need to be chosen. You only need to choose yourself. And choosing yourself doesn't mean you don't value connection or community. It means you value authenticity above acceptance. It means you're willing to stand alone if it means standing in truth. It means you trust your voice, your intuition, your gut, even when it goes against the crowd. People may call you rebellious, they may call you difficult, they may say you've changed, but let them talk. You're not here to be the most agreeable, you're here to be the most aligned. And alignment will always require you to walk away from places, people, and patterns that require you to betray yourself just to belong. You don't owe anyone a version of you that feels fake. You don't owe the world your silence just to avoid confrontation. What you owe yourself is loyalty, the kind of loyalty that says, I will not lose myself to be liked. The kind of loyalty that holds you when the noise is loud but your heart is louder. You're allowed to disappoint people who expected you to stay small. You're allowed to be misunderstood by those who never took the time to really see you. You're allowed to rise anyway, because the goal is not to be approved of by the world, it's to be at peace with the person you see in the mirror. That peace, it comes from self-trust, from knowing that you can make choices that honor your truth, not their expectations, that you can live boldly, love deeply, and lead fully, without begging for permission. Approval is a moving target, but self-worth is home, and it's time you started living there. There comes a moment, quiet, powerful, unmistakable, when you stop asking for a seat at the table and decide to build your own. That moment shifts everything. You stop knocking on doors that never opened for you. You stop waiting on invitations that never arrived. You stop trying to fit into rooms that made you feel like too much and not enough all at once. Instead, you rise, you take what you've learned, what you've earned, what you've become, and you create space on your own terms. Building your own table doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means liberating yourself. It means understanding that the room you deserve to be in isn't one that asks you to shrink. It's one that mirrors your values, celebrates your voice, and honors your presence. Sometimes the places you thought you needed to be were never meant for you. They were just lessons in where not to belong. Too often we're taught to wait to be chosen, wait to be acknowledged, wait to be offered what we've already earned. But waiting is not always patience. It can be paralysis in disguise. The truth is, the longer you wait for someone to give you what you already have the power to create, the more you delay your becoming. You don't need to be picked. You need to pick yourself. When you build your own table, you're not just claiming space for yourself. You're creating opportunity for others. You become the one who opens the door, the one who extends the hand, the one who lights the way. You're not just sitting at the table. You're shaping it, defining it, deciding who gets to eat and what's being served. And that is how legacy begins. It requires courage, the courage to be seen building from the ground up. The courage to fail in public and get back up anyway. The courage to trust your vision even when it's only clear to you. Not everyone will understand. Some will criticize. Others will walk away. But you don't build your life on approval. You build it on purpose. And purpose doesn't always look like applause. Sometimes it looks like solitude. Sometimes it looks like sacrifice. But it always feels like truth. Building your own table also means taking responsibility for the energy you allow around you. You don't invite just anyone. You choose people who inspire you, challenge you, pour into you, people who bring nourishment, not noise, because you've outgrown spaces that drain you. You've outgrown relationships that diminish you. You're no longer interested in being surrounded. You're interested in being supported. And if no one claps for you, clap for yourself. If no one shows up, show up anyway. If no one believes in your dream, believe harder. The world doesn't owe you recognition, and you don't need it to rise. Your worth isn't proven by who notices you. It's revealed by how you keep showing up when no one is watching. There's a quiet power in knowing you are the architect of your own life. You stop waiting on someone else to save you, to see you, to validate you. You become the source, the provider of your own peace, your own joy, your own power. You stop outsourcing your happiness and start cultivating it within. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. You also start setting standards not just for how others treat you, but for how you treat yourself. You no longer sit at tables where love is conditional. You don't entertain conversations that tear you down. You stop tolerating the bare minimum and start expecting alignment. And in doing so, you teach the world how to treat you, not through demands, but through example. And yes, building your own table takes time. It takes effort. It takes sleepless nights and tough decisions. But every piece of it is yours. Every inch is a reflection of your truth. There's nothing more satisfying than looking around and realizing you didn't wait to be included. You created inclusion. You didn't wait to be empowered. You became your own source of strength. What you build for yourself becomes the foundation for others to rise to. When you stop begging and start building, you send a message to every person who's ever been told they're not enough. You are. You always were, and you don't have to wait to be accepted to start living like it. Your life is the table. Your voice is the invitation. Your boundaries are the seats. Your vision is the menu. You are not just participating in your life. You are designing it. And once you realize that, you'll never beg for space again. You'll simply take it, boldly, fully, unapologetically, because you were never meant to sit quietly in the corner. You were meant to create, to lead, to own your place in this world with grace and grit. And if the world doesn't offer you a place, remember this: you're powerful enough to make your own. There is something profoundly liberating about realizing you no longer need to beg, no longer need to stretch yourself thin for love, silence your soul for attention, or compress your brilliance to earn respect. The shift is quiet, almost imperceptible at first, but it's there, a subtle but powerful transition from needing others to see your worth to knowing it yourself, deeply and unshakably, and that is where your strength begins, not in defiance, but in remembrance. Not in shouting, but in standing tall within yourself, rooted in a truth that does not waver with the tides of opinion. When you become mentally strong, it doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't let the pain control your direction. It means you see your wounds, but you don't live in them. It means you've cried in silence, rebuilt in shadows, and risen in moments where no one was watching. Mental strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the refusal to let struggle define you. It is choosing every single day to show up, even when the world tries to convince you that you don't matter. It is no longer needing permission to take up space, to speak your truth, to demand more from life. You've learned that love, when it's real, doesn't need to be chased. It arrives steady. It listens. It grows. You've learned that anyone who requires you to shrink in order to be loved does not truly love you. They love their comfort, not your presence. They love the idea of you, not your truth. And you deserve more than that. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't flinch when you rise, that doesn't fade when you speak with power, that doesn't vanish when you ask for more. The love you give to others is beautiful, but the love you learn to give to yourself is transformative. And when it comes to attention, you've stopped living like a performer. You no longer craft your identity around what others want to see. You no longer stretch for applause or hold your breath for recognition. You've realized attention is fickle, and it can be bought, manipulated, even fabricated. But authenticity, that can't be duplicated. The light within you doesn't flicker based on how many eyes are watching. It burns because you keep choosing to live aligned with your truth, and that, more than anything else, makes you magnetic. Respect. Ah, respect. That's a hard one, because the world has a way of testing your boundaries. It wants to know how far it can push before you fold. But now, you've become the kind of woman, or man, or soul, who doesn't negotiate self-respect. You've learned the hard way that what you tolerate becomes your norm. That if you keep allowing disrespect in the name of love, you'll soon forget what love is supposed to feel like. So you've drawn the line. You've said no more. Not because you're angry, not because you're bitter, but because you've finally realized that peace is more valuable than proximity. That solitude is better than being surrounded by people who make you feel alone. Mental strength is not loud. It doesn't scream, doesn't seek revenge, doesn't entertain petty battles. It simply walks away, it says, "This isn't for me," and leaves, gracefully, quietly, but permanently. It doesn't chase closure. It creates its own. It doesn't plead for understanding. It finds understanding within. It doesn't demand respect. It commands it by embodying dignity. You stop asking why someone couldn't love you right. You stop analyzing why they ignored you, ghosted you, disrespected you. Instead, you ask yourself why you stayed, why you gave chances to someone who kept showing you who they were, and then you forgive yourself. That's part of being mentally strong too, releasing shame, releasing blame, choosing to move forward without dragging the weight of your past behind you. You understand now that mistakes don't define you. How you rise from them does. And no, this journey isn't always easy. There are nights when the silence is loud. There are moments when old patterns try to seduce you back into comfort, when loneliness whispers, "Just settle," when your past knocks, asking for one more chance. But you stay rooted, you breathe, you remind yourself that the pain of growth is always better than the pain of staying stuck. You realize that you are not everyone's cup of tea, and that's not a tragedy. That's a triumph. It means you're living in your truth. It means you've stopped shape-shifting for acceptance. It means your light may blind some, but it will guide others, and those who are drawn to your truth will come, not because you begged, but because you shined. You no longer compete. You collaborate, you uplift, you protect your peace. You know that success is not a race. It's a rhythm, your rhythm. You understand that life isn't about always being strong. It's about learning how to keep moving, how to ask for help, how to rest without quitting. Strength isn't perfection, it's resilience. It's the refusal to stay broken. So you walk forward not with arrogance but with assurance. Not with a need to prove, but with a quiet fire that says, "I know who I am." You are no longer the person who needed everyone to like them. You are no longer the version of yourself that accepted disrespect just to be included. You have rewritten your story, one boundary, one truth, one brave choice at a time, and in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. You become a living, breathing example that self-worth is not given, it's claimed. That we don't beg for love, attention, or respect. We embody it. And when we do, the world begins to meet us at that level or it falls away. Either way, we win. Because when you become mentally strong, the life you build is no longer one you merely survive. It's one you fully own, boldly, bravely, unapologetically.